Okay, so here we're given a decimal. It's 0.35, and we want to know what is the fraction equivalent of 0.35. In other words, how would you write this decimal as a fraction? So the answer, one way to deal with this is to think, okay, well, what kind of place value do we have? Well, the first decimal here, this 3, what does that represent? That represents 3/10, right? So that means that alone right there would be 3 over 10. And then we have a 5 here. Well, after tenths in place value, you have hundredths, and that's 5/100ths. And as a fraction alone, that would be 5 over 100, right? So you can think of this as 3/10ths plus 5/100ths. Now, if we simplified this, what would we get? Well, 3/10ths, if you scale that, right, or say, well, how many hundredths is 3/10ths? Well, if I multiply 3 by 10 and 10 by 10, right, and we're adding this to 5 over 100, what happens there? Well, this is just 30 over 100. So it tells you, okay, 3/10ths is the same as 31/100ths. Why did I multiply by 10 in the numerator and denominator? Well, I wanted to find how many tenths there are in, how would I write tenths as a hundredths? So I multiplied 10 by 10 to get to a hundredths, but I want to keep this relationship proportional, so I also multiply the 3 by 10. In other words, I multiply the numerator and denominator by 10, effectively keeping this thing proportional, this ratio, because 10 over 10, right, if I divided these two numbers, I would just get 1, which means overall I'm not changing this fraction. So what's happening here? We'll have 30/100ths plus 5/100ths, and there's our fraction. If we add these two, we get 35 over 100, or 35/100ths. And the nice thing you might realize is, whoa, if I had just looked at this, right, and said, oh, it's 0.35, and I know 5 is hundredths, I could have read this as 35/100ths right from the bat. What you do is you look at the smallest place value, right? That will tell you your denominator. So 5 is the smallest place value here, right? It's the smallest one, is hundredths. That means that your denominator will be 100. So the smallest place value always tells you the denominator, and then the digits themselves are always the numerator. So it's 35/100ths. As a second example, if you saw 4.451, well, this is tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. So after hundredths is thousandths, and then 10,000ths, 100,000ths, and so forth. So this would be what? Well, you look at the smallest place value. This 1 is in the thousandths place, so it's over 1,000. And then you just write the digits in the numerator, and you're done. And the decimal conversion is that easy. All right, thanks.